Okay, so now that we have our basic drum arrangement here, what we're going to do is add some sub bass. And just like the percussion sounds that we just made here, or arranged here in our playlist, we can add sub bass either through audio on the playlist, or we can drag a sample onto our channel rack, and I'm going to go through both ways. So the first way I'm going to do is just by finding the sample. We can find in this the pack down here and pick a sample that we like. I like this one. So we're gonna just drag that, and then it'll show the sample right here. So if we're working in audio, we have control over the sample right here. So this is what it sounds like when I just drag it onto our playlist and play it with the beat. So what you can do is you can take your slice tool, and right here where the next kick is, you can cut, and then right click to get rid of that end part there, and then just paste the sample again where that kick hits, and that way it's hitting at the same time as your kick. And adjust the volume right here, it's a little loud, and then just do the same thing. You can either grab the slice tool, or you can just drag the sample over like this. Except in some scenarios like this one, you'll notice, so I'm clicking it and it's not letting me paste right here. That's because there's a very, 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 very small amount of audio that's spilling over the grid right there. So in that case, you do have to take your slice tool and just cut, get rid of that little end piece, and then you can paste the sample. So go ahead and so like this, we have the sub bass following the pattern of our kick. And what you can do is you can also adjust the samples here. So like if you want it to cut out when a snare hits or something like this, you can do that simply just by making sure that the sample is not playing when the snare plays. So that's how you do that in audio. If you want to do it in the channel rack and the piano roll, what you can do is you can go up here and select a new pattern. And what you're going to want to do is drag over the sample into the channel rack. And you'll notice right now you're not seeing any of the samples that we were working with before because it's in audio. So it's only showing audio. But if you go over here and just go all, then everything that we had before pops up. So like here's the hi-hat and the kick and snare. That's just one of those weird things that you just figure out as you go along. If you didn't know that information, this would be kind of confusing, but it's really easy. Just go up here, click all. So let's go ahead and paste a note here in the piano roll for the 808. So you notice the note is only this long, but it continues to play the entire sample. And that makes it so if I wanted to just draw a pattern in here, it sounds terrible because the entire sample is playing till the very end for each note. The way to fix that is you want to click on your sample right here, and then in the channel controls here, there is an envelope. This is for volume, and that's what this is right here. So I won't get too detailed into what this actually does, but what I will do is just show you how you can make your sample not play all the way through on the piano roll. So there's delay, attack, hold, decay, sustain, and release. We don't need to get into that, but what you can do here is you can turn attack, delay, hold, decay, turn your sustain all the way up, and then your release all the way down. So it's just a straight line there right at the beginning. And then now, the sample is only playing for the duration of the MIDI note. So it's much better than, well, obviously, yeah, you don't want it to play the entire sample. So now what we can do is, not sure why that's there. So what we can do is just copy the 808 pattern that we have here, except do it in the piano roll. So I'm gonna go ahead and mute this so that we don't overlay them. Okay, so here we go. We're going to layer our 808 to the same pattern here, except we're doing it in the piano roll. So cool. So that's how you do it in the piano roll. And then what's cool that if you have your subline drawn out here in the piano roll, you can, like, let's say move this up an octave. So we're at middle C right now, which is the note of the sample, which is E, as it's labeled right there. And basically that means, this is another thing I'm not going to get too in depth with, but if you have a sample that's labeled something other than C, so like right now this 808 is labeled E, that's the root, the fundamental root note of the sample. That's going to play it in middle C, which is C5. And then if you go up and down your piano roll, it'll just go up and down accordingly from that note, which is E. So we can go ahead and move this up to C6. I just realized, yeah, I'm on a quarter step there. And then this is what it sounds like, which is kind of cool. So fun to play around with that. So yeah, next up, let's add some synths to this beat now that we have our sublayer.